American accent training. Welcome to our Saturday live question and answer class. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time, and you can also leave comments if you're watching this later on as a replay. I do get back to comments and answer them for you. At the start of class today, I want to talk about the difference between the words mayor and mare, and we'll look at also payer and pair, some other similar words, and talk about how to distinguish these and pronounce them correctly, how to use them fluently and naturally in your speech. Today we're doing a super chat goal. If we get 5 super chats in the first half hour of class, I'll do an extra free class tomorrow. So if you would like to have another class, you might want to make a contribution there. Okay, looking at mayor and mare, these words are very similar. They have the A sound, they have an R sound, but in mayor, we have 2 syllables. So we can think of it as the first syllable is stressed. It sounds like may with the A diphthong that slides. And then letters OR say the ER sound in this word. That's very typical at the ends of words like mayor or scholar, doctor. Letters OR don't say or there, not mayor or doctor, but mayor and doctor. That's because those letters are in the unstressed syllable. We don't want a clear vowel there, just a short little sound. But the difference between mayor and mare is that this one is only 1 syllable. And so in the word mare, we have the air diphthong. I'll write that for you here, like in the word air. It does follow the rules here of the letter silent E at the end makes the A say its name. So the A says the A diphthong when there's an E at the end. That's a pattern. It's not a 100% rule in English, but it applies in this word. But you could also visualize it like the word air, where we spell the air diphthong with AIR. So you can hear when I say mare and mayor, they sound very similar, but this one should be a little bit more distinctive, mayor, with that y sound connecting in this. This one should be just more a little bit air, mare. So you don't want to hear it as mayor, but mare and mayor. Same thing happens in words like payer, someone who pays, and pair or pair. Or pear. All 3 of these are the same. So this is pear the fruit. This is pear like 2 things that go together. This is pear like in cut up a fruit, cut up something. Yeah, okay. So I think being able to recognize that we have this vowel-to-vowel linking in mayor, and you really need to make sure that you're saying that y sound to distinguish the 2 can be very helpful. Thank you for the request. This was from one of our viewers, and I wanted to make sure to cover it. There's been more than one person who's had some challenge with that single syllable versus double syllable with the A, your, and air sounds. Okay, I'll turn to your questions now. As I mentioned at the start of class, please feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time, and you can also add your questions as a comment if you're watching this later on as a replay. It doesn't have to be about our topic for today. We can talk about fluent speech, pronunciation of words, whatever you need help with to speak English fluently and confidently and know that you're pronouncing things correctly. Okay, welcome. We have one of our channel members here this morning. He's asking about vowel a as in cat, or the letter A. So how the vowel sounds for letter A in cat. That would be the a sound. And then the AR in car, that would be the R diphthong. And the ah sound in cot. Okay, so let's look at these 3 and talk about our tongue position. So I always like to use the vowel quadrangle when I'm talking about vowel sounds. The idea here is that it's supposed to be like the shape of our mouth. Of course, we don't have these straight lines in our mouth, but when we're saying the a sound, like in cat, what's happening is that the front of our mouth is open. So this is the front of the mouth, this is the back, this is the top, and this is the bottom. And so when I'm saying the ah sound, the front of my tongue is down behind my lower teeth, and the back of my tongue is lifted. So there's space here in the front of the mouth, but the back of the mouth is filled up with my tongue. So one way to feel that is to feel the difference between the ah and the ah that you're talking about in cot. So when I say, I would just say the sound of ah, like father. So this is the ah sound, similar to the ah sound in Spanish, maybe a little bit further back in the mouth. So saying ah, you can feel your whole tongue is down. So when the doctor says, say ah, they do that because your tongue is going to be down and out of the way, and they can see into the back of your throat. So when I say ah, my tongue is down and flat. But when I say ah, my tongue is at an angle. The back of my tongue is lifted and the front of my tongue is down. So saying cot, I should feel very open. Cat, I should feel the back of my tongue lifted and the only opening is in the front of my mouth. And then for the R sound, it's a diphthong that basically goes from the open ah to the tight sound. So these three sounds, it's the one that moves. So for car, the R sound, what I would say is first say the sound with the tongue tight, in the middle. It happens here, and the sides of the tongue are braced against my teeth, And then when I say R, what I'm doing is basically going from a little below that and no bracing, no tightness of the tongue, and then sliding into that position. R. So for R, I always recommend focusing on the R part of it, the part of the diphthong, and then the R just moves a little lower and then up into quickly. R. So cat, car, cot. I do have a number of videos talking about each of these sounds and some making some comparisons for them. So I can direct you to those videos as well. And I hope that helped you kind of get oriented to those sounds. Learning about the vowel chart can be super useful, and you can use my vowels videos here on the channel or also in our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com. I walk you through all of the sounds, spelling, how we make those sounds in the mouth, example words, and also accent error patterns to watch out for. So that's a great resource for you, and you can find it on our website, speechmodification.com. It's called The Sounds of American English. It's a nice, inexpensive online course for you. Okay, we have a question about the first syllables in dengue and dangle and whether they're the same. So dengue, like dengue fever, dengue. This is a sound, like in red, and dangle has the sound, like in black. So they're not the same. Dang is going to be more closed, and dang is going to be more open, like we were looking at earlier, the sound versus the S sound. Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Okay. We have a viewer who's been having difficulties with words ending in ing, whether or not you say the G sound in fast speech. So, for example, do you say join in instead of joining in? So, interestingly, we never have a G sound in ing at the ends of words. Sometimes we do in the middle, like in finger, but even in that case, we have an ng sound before the G sound. So what you want to watch out for is that the letters ng just say one sound. It sounds like ing. So if I'm saying, for example, sing or ring or wing, I'm not saying an N and a G. I'm not saying wing. I'm saying wing. So the back of my tongue is lifting. So for example, to feel that, what I would suggest is say the word win. You should feel your tongue goes behind your teeth. Win, win. Or the same sound, the n sound, you can say no or not. You can feel where your tongue goes. But when you say wing, you shouldn't feel your tongue lifting in the front at all. It only lifts in the back. Some people have trouble feeling that. So what I would say then is to say a word like sink or wink. For that k sound, you can feel the tongue is lifting more in the back, not behind the front of the teeth. Middle back of the mouth for wink and sink. And these, again, are not, that's not an N and a K sound. It's actually an NG and a K sound. So when I'm saying sink, I'm saying an NG sound and then my K sound. And so you can say, try saying sink and then leave your K off. Sing, and then you can feel where that NG sound happens. So when I say I'm joining in, I'm lifting in the back for the joining, the NG, and then I have to come back to the front for the in. Now, that's not to say that sometimes people don't say, change the NG to an N, but we don't typically do that in connected speech. Like, I could say, are you joining in a sort of casual, relaxed way. The most common time that we do that is when we say something like, how's it going? What you doing? That is a casual speech thing that we do, changing the NG to an N and dropping, changing that sound. Like I'm going in, that would be using an N sound. But it's really not proper speech. It's more for slang or casual speech. So we would instead say, I'm going in. So for a lot of people, moving from this NG sound to another sound is very difficult. And that's maybe why you're struggling, is that you might be able to say joining correctly with that ng sound, or you might just be actually using an N sound all of the time and not realizing that the N and the NG sounds are separate. So I have several videos talking about this. You can look for one that's about the words thing and think, or my video just about NG sound. You can also check out our Sounds of English course where I walk you through the difference between N and NG, how to say NG sounds in connected speech, how to link them, etc. And yeah, that's a great question. I hope this cleared it up for you. If it didn't, leave me a comment after the video and I'll direct you to some more resources that break that down in a little bit more detail for you. But it's a very common accent error pattern that people will say an N instead of an NG, or they will put a G sound on here. So they might be saying, for this, they might say wing g, which is, there should be no g sound. We just have, the sound is just ng and not ng. Yeah, great question. I hope that wasn't more than you bargained for with the answer, but it's kind of complicated. I mean, it's straightforward, but it's surprising to a lot of people to learn about NG being one sound rather than two sounds. Okay, great. Thanks so much for your contribution, Edison, and for being a channel member. I truly appreciate your support, and I hope we reach our goal of 5 contributions today, 5 super chats, then we'll be able to have another class tomorrow. Okay, we have a question about the word background. So in background, we don't really let this K sound out because we have a G sound following. So we have the first syllable is stressed, we have the back, and then we have second syllable secondary stress. Background is a compound word. Compound words are almost always stressed on the first syllable and have secondary stress on the second syllable. The ow, OU says the ow diphthong. And the way you'll hear this come out is it's going to sound a little bit like back, but we're not going to let that K out. So rather than background, that would break up the word, I'm going to say back, lift up for that K, and then just release into the G. Background, background, background. And for your other word, sentimental, I just created a video for that. It should be out in a few weeks, but basically we can either say sentimental with true T sounds, or we sometimes will say sentimental. where we change those NTs to N sounds. So watch for that video. It's coming soon. There have been a couple of requests for that in the past as well. So I'm looking forward to that video coming out, and you can get more details on the two ways, sentimental versus sentimental. Great. Okay. Excuse me. Question about whether T is dropped when we pronounce exactly. Yes, it can be. So in exact, we have to say that T sound exact because it's in the KT cluster. But in exactly, we have a K, T, O all in a row. And so there's something called the rule of three, that oftentimes when there's three consonants in a row in a syllable, we drop the middle consonant. So in this IPA would be with second syllable stress, exactly. So it'll still show it in the IPA in the dictionary, but what you'll hear is more like exactly. But what I usually like to do is put that T in there, because what I don't want is exactly. I don't want any release of air on that K, because I'm stopping the air for both the K and the T. Exactly. You're going to hear an unreleased K sound, and I'm going to release right into the L. So it's exactly right. That's exactly how we do it. Thank you. That's a great word. And I do have a video for exact versus exactly that you might want to check out to help you hear the difference between the KT blend and then that rule of three with exactly. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see so many of you here again this weekend, and I appreciate your attendance in these live classes, all your comments, questions throughout the week on our Tuesday videos. And if you're looking for something, I often have it already on the channel or on my website, speechmodification.com. So don't hesitate to leave comments when you're watching the videos. I always go through those and give people resources and send you links to help you with your questions. Okay. Edison wants to know about raw and row. So this is another one where I either just recently released a video or it'll be coming soon, where I'm talking about the ah versus o. And I have a practice video for this with a podcast covering it. But basically, back to our vowel quadrangle, when we're looking at those two, the main difference is that ah is more open and it's static. So when I say ah from raw, ah, I have rounded lips, but I'm almost as open as I was for that ah of cot or father. And then for o, it's a diphthong. So I'm sliding, sorry, I made this a little small. I'm sliding, I start very rounded, o, and then I relax a little bit, the rounding, and I raise the tongue and close the jaw as I'm saying o. So when we say row with the o diphthong, we want to feel that sliding, start a little more closed and a little more rounded, row. Whereas when we say raw, ah, it's still rounded, but my jaw is more open and there's no slide. So even though there's two letters here, it's just one sound. And these two letters are spelling, it's one sound, but it's a sliding diphthong, o. Row, raw. So check out my video for more examples of that, things like won't and want. It'll be helpful for you to orient to those two sounds as well. Great question. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question about for and warlords. Great idea. So we have 3 different spellings of the same sounds here. So all of these have the or diphthong. So this for, number 4 and 4 have the same pronunciation, although this one often gets reduced to more of a fur. So if I was doing for warlords, it might sound like fur for 4 warlords. W-A-R sounds like or. So in words like war, warm, warlord, it's going to be the or sound, same as in the word war. So for warlords, wore warm clothes. the presence of the WAR follows a different set of rules, and so it can be kind of confusing. We don't want an R there, just an OR. And then Lords is more straightforward. It just follows the general idea of the OR saying the OR sound. And then our letter S is a Z sound in 4 warlords. So it was for 4 warlords who wore warm clothes to war. Yeah, I do have a number of videos talking about the WAR phenomenon and also how different ways we spell the OR sound and different sounds that the letters OR can make. You might want to check those out if that's part of the challenge for you. Thank you. That's a great phrase to work on. Okay, we have a question where in the U.S. is the word order pronounced arder. So most places in the U.S. we have order, the or sound here. Some places say it a little bit more like arder with an R sound or an ah, arder. Mostly that's New York. Take your arder. Long Island maybe, Brooklyn. They would also say like Florida instead of Florida. Maybe also a few southern accents. I'm not sure 100% of everywhere that the or becomes a little bit more of an R, but it's primarily a New York thing. Maybe also Philadelphia. They have some distinct regional accent as well. Great. Okay, we have a question about a stampede, the phrase a stampede. So the is a schwa, sounds like and then we have the stress on stam of stampede. We have our a vowel there, letter A says a like cat, and then the ede says the e sound, so it would be a stam. Actually, the stress is on pede here, not on stam. So a stampede. There was a stampede when the new popular shoes were released. Yeah, great. Thank you for that request. So we have a question, another channel member here. Welcome, nice to see you. More examples of the rule of 3. So other words that would end with an ly and a consonant cluster. So we had exactly, maybe, let's see, what else would be a good example? Precisely, no, that one doesn't do it. That's only 2. Maybe, let's see, in government, we have the government. We tend to drop that N, government. That's a little different because this R is vocalic, but I can't think of examples off the top of my head, but that's something I could make a video about. And it's very typical when we have just 3 consonants in a row with clusters like that. We often drop the N in NT. So like in differently, that one we tend to use more of an unreleased T. So you won't hear it, but we don't really do differently. We use a stop T there, so that's not a good example of rule of 3. Yeah, that's not something I've looked into in too much detail. I've just encountered it in a few words, although there's a lot of places where we use unreleased consonants in clusters. So again, thank you for the question, and I'll do a little further research and then add that to my to-do list for words to cover in a future class. Or if we make our goal of 5 super chats today in this lesson, I can research that and cover it in tomorrow's extra free bonus class. Okay. We have a question about Doge. So there's a couple ways that people pronounce this. It's currently, as an acronym for the Department of Government Efficiency. It's a nod to to Doge coin, which was a one of the early cryptocurrencies. And there's some debate about that. Some people pronounce that one Doge with the j sound like measure. The O does say O. Some pronounce that doggy, doggy coin because it had a dog on it. But nobody pronounces the government one as doggy, but some people pronounce it as Doge, dog, Doge, Doge. They would actually not do the j, they would do a j. So they would do more Doge with a j sound. So I think you can do Doge with a continuing sound or Doge with a j sound. I've heard both in the media. And this is the one I heard more for the cryptocurrency that they were trying to reference when they chose that acronym for that. I would say for that agenda, governmental executive branch agenda. Okay, hope that helps. A little bit unclear, but I'm hearing mostly Doge or Doge for that. Okay, we have a question about restaurant. So this is an example of a word that sometimes non-native speakers will say 3 syllables, restaurant, which is not wrong, but native speakers will often reduce this down to more like 2 syllables, and they'll say more like restaurant. So we have the first letter E says the S sound like red or like rest. You could think about it like restaurant, but I do think that T kind of links the 2 syllables together. And then the vowel here at the end is an ah, like saw. I saw her at the restaurant. You can also do kind of restaurant. Yeah, a couple of different options there, but I would go with restaurant. It's the easiest and the most common that you'll hear. Yeah, thank you. That's a good word. I do have a video covering restaurant, so if you'd like a little more detailed help with that, check that out here on the channel. And as I mentioned earlier, you can, or I didn't mention earlier, but on our channel page, if you're looking at the menu across the top, there's a search box on the far right. Type in your word on the search box on the channel, and you'll get my videos regarding it. If you just type in the search box overhead for YouTube, you'll get all the YouTube videos, but mine might help you more get more details for that sound. Or you can leave a comment on this video or any of my videos, and I'll send you the link directly in a comment back to you. Okay, great. We have a question about anesthesia. So I do have a video for this one as well. So for anesthesia, we have our j sound again. So the stress is on the th syllable. So we have anus. I would say us or is there. Anesthe. And then we have our th sound, voiceless th here. Anesthese. The e sound, and then the j sound. One syllable, not zia, but j, not anesthesia, anesthesia. This is a like cat. So he went under anesthesia for the procedure. I do have a video for this. Again, if you want a little more detail, you can use the search box on the channel or leave me a comment and I'll direct you to where you can find that video. Okay, it's wonderful to see so many of you here today. I can see based on the time that I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's questions. I'll try to do at least one of your questions before I have to wrap up for the day. We've reached 2 out of 5 of our super chat goal. If we get 3 more, I can cover the rest of those questions for everyone tomorrow in an extra bonus class. Okay, we have a question about transitioning after or before th sounds, specifically with then, there, through, which appear very frequently. 330. Okay, let's use your 330 as an example. When you're trying to do th and you're trying to move back and forth, we still do put the tongue between the teeth, 330, or then or there. But it just has to be very rapid. And so if I'm saying 3 and I'm here in the E, 30, I want to keep my tongue as close to that TH position as I can. So if I'm saying like, we'll do this and then, for example, when I'm saying and then, I'm not going up for that D and that N in the normal position. If I say and by itself, I can do and with my tongue here. But if I'm saying and then, I usually would drop that D. And then as I'm saying the N sound, instead of making it with the tip of my tongue behind my teeth, and then, you can see how that's two separate movements. It's too slow. It's too difficult to link and transition. So I'm going to say and then. My tongue is already going to be in that TH position for the then, so it can be ready and it can do it quickly. We'll do this and then we'll go and then. So the TH kind of, I call it one of the bossy sounds. It'll take precedence over the other sounds around it, and the other sounds might change slightly so that I can get that tongue position for the TH. I do have a specific video, covered at this recent live class. It's all about all the different sounds and linking to TH, so I would definitely recommend checking that out. It shows you kind of how to go was there, is that, going from S or Z to TH, from T or D to TH, etc., etc. It can be challenging and it can take practice, but it will get smoother. And don't feel like you have to do like 330 with your tongue way out. 330, 330. My tongue is just kind of darting between the teeth and then going back to do whatever else it needs to do for the other sounds. Okay, so that was a pretty brief coverage of that topic, but I'm confident that with my other video talking about TH linking and my TH playlist, you should be able to get the help you need for making that a little smoother and easier for you. It's also something I cover in our Sounds of English course on our website, speechmodification.com. I go through a lot of details about TH because it is a very common sound in English and a challenging one to execute in connected speech. Okay, a couple more quick ones and then I need to wrap up for today. It's nice to see so many of you here, and nice to have our channel members. We have another channel member question for inadvertently. So inadvertently. So I can say this. I'm going to have a little secondary stress on in, because it's important as a prefix to know the meaning of it. Inad. So no stress on the A means it's going to be a schwa sound. So it sounds like in. Then the D is going to be unreleased. Inadvertently. Inadvertently. So we'll have a D and another schwa. I didn't spell it right. Inadvertently. We'll have our sound, an unreleased T, a syllabic N, another unreleased T, and an L. No wonder you have trouble. Well, a lot of sounds there. So don't let that T out. Inadvertently. Another syllabic N and a L. Okay, so what's happening here is that I can do inadvertently. I can do these T sounds. People will do that inadvertently. But sounds more British. Americans tend to use unreleased T here, and they just say the ver and the n. So we're making our sound short. Inadvert, go up for the T, and then make your N sound. N. Stop it quickly because of that T, and then release on the L. Inadvertently. Yeah, that one I think probably should cover in a future video because it's pretty complex with those stop T's and N's. The easiest way is to do inadvertently with the T's. If you want to be clear and make sure that you're understood, nothing wrong with that. But as you're going, inadvertently, two stop T's. That's something I talk about in the word maintenance. That's a video I can think of that has a similar pattern that might be helpful for you to check out as well. And if you leave me a comment, I can direct you to some resources for that NT and unreleased T combination. Okay, great. I'll just quickly say some of your other words. I'm not going to go through them in detail because I need to close up for now, but we have a question about let's see, for the word interesting, you can do interesting, interesting, interesting. I do have several videos about that, giving you lots of examples, so check those out here on the channel. For the word bow, couple different meanings. So we have bow, like tying a bow in a string, pronounced with O. We have bow with the ow diphthong, take a bow. And I think that's it for those two. That's also for the bow of a ship. Yeah, so bow or bow, depending on the meaning of the word. Okay, and we have a question about neuron. So this is an ner, and this is an ah, first syllable stress, neuron. Question about tomorrow. We tend to say that with just a schwa on the first syllable, so try morrow, tomorrow. And lastly, the word consistent, second syllable stress, consistent. And then the word thirsty sounds like 30, but with a ST, thirsty. Okay, sorry I didn't have time to go into more detail answering every question from every person, but it's nice to see so many of you here. And thank you for attending the class, for supporting the channel with likes, comments, sharing. I will be back again on Tuesday with a new release, and then next Saturday we'll have another live class. So if I didn't get to your questions today, I hope to see you next week in our live class. Thanks everyone for a great class. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye everyone. Hope to see you again soon.